Hello and Happy New Year. This week on Growing Guelph, I'm speaking to Amanda Kapchak, the Director of Marketing and Communications with the Children's Foundation of Guelph and Wellington. Children's Foundation is a nonprofit that's working towards building a community where every child and youth has the opportunity to participate, learn, and grow to build a brighter future. It's a great organization that I've been aware of for a number of years, but was excited to learn more about. So thanks for downloading and settle in for that conversation coming at you right now. Today, I'm joined by Amanda Kapchak from the Children's Foundation of Guelph and Wellington. Amanda, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Amanda, can you start off by introducing yourself to our listeners and sharing a bit about how you came to your role with the Children's Foundation of Guelph and Wellington?
Awesome. Yeah, so I am the Director of Marketing and Communications here at the Children's Foundation, and I have been part of the Children's Foundation team for a little over 5 years now. I started as a volunteer, and then I was in a Canada Summer Jobs role, and from there I've kind of progressed through and taken on all things marketing and communications and really jumped into that. The pandemic was a really good kind of jumping off point for me because when we went into a time where we needed all things marketing and communications. So I was really able to jump in and help support then. And I've kind of been there ever since.
That's great. Pandemic, interesting time. Obviously, not a good time for many, but I guess change-ups like that are always opportunities for people willing to do something new and step up. Mm-hmm. If any of our listeners are unfamiliar, can you provide an overview of the Children's Foundation and its mission in the Guelph community?
Yeah, so the Children's Foundation, it's a local charitable organization, and our mission is to enhance the well-being of children and youth by connecting them to experiences and supports that contribute to their sense of belonging and to help them reach their full potential. So we do that through different programs, and we invest in children through things like food security and access to sports, recreation, and life skills, mental health support, and holiday support as well.
Very cool. It seems like the sort of nonprofit organization that the foundation of what you're doing is just easy to support, if that makes sense. Like for some things, there's almost like a pitch they have to make, but when you start reading about the Children's Foundation, it's like, oh, of course, why wouldn't people want to support this? I guess that's
exactly.
Not that makes raising funds and that difficult, or not that makes it easy for you and the team, because I'm sure getting the word out and getting people just aware of all the great things you're doing. Partly why I reached out to you to be on this podcast, because you are doing a lot of good work, and anything we can do to get the word out there, I think is going to benefit. So speaking of some of those programs, I understand that the foundation runs a number of programs, such as there's Adopt a Family, Keep Kids Fed, and Free to Grow. Are you able to expand on a little bit about those programs and maybe share some of the specific impacts that they have on local children and families?
Yeah, definitely. So our Adopt a Family program is kind of one of the programs that we are most known for in the community, and that is our holiday assistance program that connects families in need during the holiday season to donors throughout the community. And those donors get to give the gift of hope and joy by shopping for tangible gifts and grocery needs cards as well. So this past holiday season, we actually saw a record number of referrals come to us. So we were able to support all 1,649 families and independent youth who were referred to the program. So that it's one of those things where we say like, oh, it was a record-breaking year. But when you look at it in hindsight, a record-breaking year of having more families being in need is not really the greatest thing to be celebrating, but we can celebrate the fact that our community was able to come together and support all the families that were referred to us this year. So that's a really big accomplishment on our end. And then our Keep Kids Fed program, this is our newly rebranded and expanded program after our recent unification with Food for Kids Guelph. So this program offers the wraparound food support to local children and youth through two different pillars. So we have Keep Kids Fed at School, which is formerly our Food and Friends program, which supports breakfast, snack, and lunch programs on school school days throughout different schools in Guelph, Wellington, and Dufferin. And then we have our Keep Kids Fed at Home program, which was formerly Food for Kids Guelph, which supports those severely food insecure children by providing them with weekend and holiday support as well. So on those school holidays and over weekends, we provide them with whether it's grocery gift cards or food bags to get them through the weekend so that they aren't going home to empty cupboards. And then our last program is our Free to Grow program, which works to nurture the physical, social, emotional, and mental well-being of children and youth in our community by providing them with funding for things like recreation and life skill opportunities. So that's sports and arts and camps, driver's education, leadership development, lifeguarding. So all of those different things to help them build their skills in life. We provide funding to families to make sure that their kids have those opportunities as well.
That's very cool. Sounds like the programs, like you said, that's focusing on the base needs. I'm trying to think back to some of my psychology classes, like is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? It's
Yes.
like you really have to focus on the most important, but then you can't just focus on that. And there are organizations that just look at that most, shelters as a baseline. But like you said, setting people up for success means that if there's a lack in those basic needs, then there's going to be a lack in the secondary needs and the things that set people up for success and set kids up to be successful and to have opportunities to pursue what they want to. I kind of want to go back to what you were saying about that record, like there's a record need. I'm sure a lot of people aren't necessarily surprised by that. I think, the economic realities of the current time are apparent for everyone. And with that increased need, there's probably also people who were previously able to support, but they can't give in the same way. Either their own finances have been hit or they lost job opportunities or whatever the case may be. Has that meant that the organization has had to really explore building the base of donors, trying to reach out to new donors, people who I mean, you can say that as the need is increasing, there's also people who've gotten new jobs, have gotten raises in their job, their financial opportunity has changed, and maybe they're able to give for the first time when they haven't previously. But maybe are you able to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, like it is a dance that I feel like we all play in the fundraising world, and especially in times like this, when you see the need increase, you'll often see a decline in fundraising as well. So it is something that we are constantly keeping an eye on to make sure that we're still able to support those in need in our community, and we're not having to, scale back anything that we're doing, but also making sure that we are still fundraising at the capacity we can without kind of overstepping as well. And we know that the community is struggling at large. You can see it with things like we know that food prices have increased. We know that food bank usage has increased. We know that rent is at an all-time high. So keeping those things in mind too, we also try to be mindful of how much we're asking of the community during these hard times, but knowing that we keep seeing the need climbing. So it is that kind of delicate balance that we have to kind of work through as well to make sure that we are able to continue to support the community through these times of need.
I previously worked at a nonprofit, and I could just say to our listeners that nonprofits spend a lot of time, very considerate time, thinking about how they are reaching out to ask for money because they're very aware of the fact that to some part of the population, just being asked or seeing that there's a campaign for asking, it leads to questions like, well, why are you spending money on this campaign? You could be spending money on, just putting the money directly in the causes that you're trying to support and the programs you're trying to do. I'll just say that if you've never worked in a nonprofit place, please just try to be aware that they are very considerate of that. They're not spending more money than they're making. They are doing that because getting the word out brings money in, and you can be frustrated at the capitalist system we live in that forces organizations to spend money to bring more money in, but they are being effective. I can't speak for all organizations, but a lot of the time, if it's an organization that's trustworthy, there's just a lot of time and consideration to put into that. So if you're ever tempted to be like, why are you spending money on this, spend it on that, just maybe err on the side of that they know what they're doing, I'll say.
Yeah.
So going back to the idea of food security, that's obviously a significant focus of the foundation. Can you maybe speak to how programs like the Keep Kids Fed and the Adopt a Family address food insecurity among children in Guelph, and what's been the response from the wider community?
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned, we know that It's a major issue in our community. The Guelph Wellington Poverty Task Force actually put out some stats this year that the price of groceries has increased by over 14% in the last 2 years, and that 5% of children in our own community are severely food insecure. And so that was a big driving force behind the recent unification that we did with Food for Kids Guelph. So we saw that opportunity to join forces and provide more wraparound food support to children in our community, and also just looking at that working smarter, not harder type of thing. So making our resources go further by coming together. And so through Keep Kids Fed, we're able to provide that access to nutritious food to students. And it is a universal program when it's in the at school portion of it. So really any school, any student at the school can access that program. So there's no sign up, there's no stigma, there's no nothing. You can walk right in, grab a granola bar, whatever it is that your school offers at that program. So that is a great program to help kids kind of just get that nutrition that they need to learn while they're at school. And then the at-home portion of it really drives to support those severely food insecure kiddos who are going home to those empty cupboards. And so we provide them with food support, whether that is grocery gift cards over the school holidays, or the weekend food bags that are discreetly tucked into their backpacks while they're at school so they can take them home. And again, we try to do it looking at equity and inclusion and just making sure that they feel like they belong and there's no stigma attached to it. So we really focus on that and ensuring that they have access to what they need at all times. And then our Adopt a Family program also keeps food support in mind during the holiday season. So we provide grocery gift cards to families as part of their holiday package, and that gives them choice in purchasing their groceries for the holiday season. So it allows them to get any of those special items that they need for those traditional celebrations to make those really special holiday memories. And like I said, we look at it from a lens of equity and inclusion to make sure that children and families don't feel less than their peers. And then it provides them with the nutrition they need to thrive, to learn, and to make those special memories with their families at the holidays. And we've seen really, really great pickup from the community since we had the unification. And we know that food security is such an issue that we're really turning our language around it and focusing a lot more on food security and making sure that the community knows the work that we are putting in to provide that support through many of our different programs so that they can understand a little bit more about, what it is we do. Because a lot of people can look at us and say, oh yeah, the Children's Foundation, they help support kids, but they may not know that their child's school has a breakfast program that we're funding. So we're really trying to shine a light on that to let people know where their dollars are going and how it's directly supporting food security in our community.
It's really interesting the discretion that is so important for a program like this to function, because you want to be mindful that people have a lot of feelings of shame. I think parents, especially if they maybe they feel like they're a failure if they have to make use of programs like this, and kids too, especially as they get a little older, become very self-conscious, and that's such an important line to walk of providing support, but not putting them up on a pedestal of like, oh, look how good we are for helping these poor children. And I used to work at a nonprofit in the marketing and comms department, and it was a nonprofit that dealt with children, and it becomes a very tricky space because you're trying to celebrate the achievements of the organization in order to do more good, to have a bigger impact, but you're limited by, you can't really show pictures of kids, nor would you really want to in a situation like this. You don't want to be putting them out there for negative attention from their peers, from other people. Do you think, all that to say, are things improving in that space of, as a society, where we're not going to put that stigma on people? And is that kind of maybe related to some of the progress we've made talking about like mental health supports and people acknowledging and having been in this space for a little while? Are you seeing any positive trends in that direction?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the more we talk about it, the better it's going to get. I mean, like, as you said, we've had the same conversation around mental health for many, many years, and we're really seeing a change in that. And I think the next one is going to be around food security and really looking at it from a lens of not everybody can afford to eat the same way, and looking at the cost of food. And I mean, it's something that everyone can relate to, which is, I don't want to say an easy sell, but that's from like a fundraising perspective. When you have something that is easily relatable to, it makes it a little bit easier to tell that story. And food is something that everybody can relate to. So when you talk about, you go to the grocery store and you see that fruits and vegetables have exponentially gotten higher and higher. And every time you go in, it's like, oh, okay, well, I could buy a pack package of Kraft Dinner for significantly less than I could make a full salad at home. And those are the kinds of choices that a lot of parents are having to make. And when you think of something like a food bank and you think of the items that they're looking for, it's really, really interesting when you start looking into things like what items they are actually looking for, because you can bring them a bunch of Kraft Dinner, but if the family doesn't have milk or butter, they're not going to be able to make that dinner. So
Mhm.
there's lots of little things that when you really take a step back and look at it, you really realize all the pieces that come together to help support your community in terms of food security. And food is one of those things people join over food, people gather over food, people connect over food. So I think it is a really easy point to talk about, and I'm hoping that people really kind of understand that and start to understand that food insecurity is something that we really need to look at from all angles and try to support wherever we can.
I think that's such a critical point about, not all calories are made equal, especially if we're talking about like nurturing growing minds, and that people are going to make choices about how to feed their family. And also the idea of like the classic, oh, there's a food drive, like dig whatever's been building dust in the back of your cupboard out and donate
Mhm.
it, when like, is that what they really need? Because like it's not that calories are cheap. Calories are cheap. Rice is fairly cheap, but it's about like balanced meals. And I think that's why a lot of food pantries and that say like, if you can, a donation will go further than, 4 dusty cans of, I won't use any brand name, of like a generic pasta brand or something that like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a meal, but is it the meal that you prioritize for your kid? Apparently not.
Yeah.
If people are willing to donate it, so.
Exactly. And that's why like our in-school programs definitely focus on that nutrition piece where we really look to serve nutritious items. And a lot of kids, like I've heard stories of kids coming in after Halloween and their lunch bags are just filled with candy. And it's not because they want it to be, but it's because it was easier for the parents. They could provide food to their kids at that time and pay a different bill by filling their lunch bag with Halloween candy.
Mhm.
And when you think of it from that perspective, it just really shakes it up, and you go, "Wow, I never realized that that is something that some families have to face." So that's why we try to have that nutritious aspect when we have our in-school program. But then our at-home program is a little bit different, and I wanted to make sure that I touched on this because in some instances for our at-home program, there's kids who are feeding themselves.
Mhm.
So sometimes it is things like a microwavable meal or an easily made oatmeal at home, like those really easy steps that are maybe not deemed as the most nutritious, but they're still better than nothing or better than Halloween candy. So we also have to kind of look at it from that perspective when we're sorting out our food as well as is it easily makeable for a child who may not have an adult around to help them. And so
Mhm.
looking at it from all lenses is something that we also have to do.
Yeah, that it's so important. And in you relaying that story at the Halloween candy, I had to stop myself from becoming judgmental to those parents on an individual level because, I can sit here as a privileged, educated white man and say, like, how could they pack their kids' lunches with Halloween candy? Don't they know? And it's like, okay, well, I know. And I've been, I can sit here and I've taken nutrition classes. I went to school for biology, blah, 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 blah. I can't put myself into everyone's shoes. I don't know the
Mhm.
life story of those parents. I don't know what they're struggling with, the types of jobs they're working, the things like the factors that are in their life. And I think that's why it's so important to deal with these issues with like systemic solutions and solutions that just provide support and provide help, because you can sit there all day on an individual basis and be like, these parents shouldn't have done this or they should do this. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's fine. That's good advice if it's you're a close friend of yours or something that you're trying to help them. But on a wider level, like there are going to be kids who are food insecure. There are going to be parents who don't have the fundamental skills of providing that nutrition. And yeah, I'm glad that there's an organization that's as thoughtful as yours that's providing solutions like that. I wanted to ask more about the Free to Grow program. So it provides funding for recreational and life skills opportunities. Can you share a success story or an example of how this program has made a difference for one of the young participants?
Yeah, so we have an abundance of stories that all seem to kind of have the same sentiment to them, which is that parents are always just kind of overjoyed and grateful for the support that we give to their children. Like we've had parents that say like having my child enrolled in these sports, that's the spark of their life. Like we see the joy come out when they're on the field. So we're so thankful we're able to give them that opportunity. And so it's the same sort of thing like you had said before, where it's difficult when you work with children because we always try to make sure that stories are non-identifying and things like that. But we've had a few ones that have stuck out to me. So 2 summers ago, we had a young girl who was able to participate in summer camp. And then last year, when her family had applied for funding, we heard that she was so upset that she wasn't old enough to be a camp counselor because all she wanted to do was be a camp counselor. She had the best time at camp. Her counselors were so nice to her. She had so much fun, and she was devastated when she found out she couldn't go back as a counselor. She had to go back as a camper. And now she just can't wait till she's old enough to be a camp counselor. And as someone who volunteers as a camp counselor in the summers, and camp has been like a huge part of my life, I just like love that story so much because it just speaks to like the power of summer camp where people don't really think about. A lot of people think about summer camp as like something that their kid is going to do for childcare in the summer. But a lot of people don't look at summer camp as a place where kids build friendships, they develop self-esteem, they develop different skills. So just hearing about a kid who had so much fun and wants to go back and kind of nurture the next generation was really awesome. And then we also have a lot of newcomer families who come to us for funding. And our Free to Grow program director, she had mentioned that we recently had a family mention to them how important it was to their family and to their children to be able to participate in a sport that was familiar to them because it helped them get integrated into the community in a different way. So they were able to do something that was already familiar to them, and there might be those language barriers or anything like that. And it helped them get integrated into the community in a really safe and comforting way. So just being able to kind of look at it from that lens, I think is really important. And knowing that funding for sports and recreation really does open up doors in all sorts of ways.
Hmm. Speaking to like the summer camp experience, that's such an important way of looking at it. Where you're right. I think I can't speak from experience. I'm not a parent, but you're like parents are focused on the problem that they're trying to solve, like week to week, month to month, summer to summer. Like, oh, I need childcare. I need because they're just in the thick of it.
Yeah.
But from a wider perspective, like that first summer camp, like what a momentous like memory that those kids are gonna carry for the rest of their lives. That'll shape other friendships that they'll make, the self-confidence it can give. And then, like you
Mhm.
said, if they're really passionate about it, they're like you're sowing the seeds of the future camp counselor that's gonna like make a bigger difference for other people and
Yeah.
for an opportunity that someone wouldn't have been able to get. So that's great. Next, I wanted to ask about volunteers. I think I've talked to a lot of organizations in Guelph where volunteers are sort of the heart of the organization. And I understand that volunteers are also essential to the operations of your organization. What opportunities are available for people? So if they're listening and they want to get involved, how can listeners sign up and what kind of skills are you looking for in volunteers?
Yeah, so our organization has like over 3,000 volunteers who support us annually. So whether that's through our fundraising events or our regular programs, like you said, they're really essential to what we do. So if you are looking to get involved, we have different opportunities that kind of arise throughout the year, whether it's helping at some of our fundraising events, decorating smile cookies, helping out in our office. So there's a few different things that kind of pop up on and off throughout the year. And then we do have ongoing opportunities that really happen throughout our Keep Kids Fed program. So those are during the school year. So whether that's helping with our at-home portion of the program, which is packing those weekend food bags each week and getting those out to the schools, or being part of our at school program, which is to help prepare and serve the meals in the school program. So those opportunities are kind of available during the school year. And then, as I mentioned, we have some that pop up throughout. So really all different sorts of skill sets. This
Hmm.
past weekend, we had our Trees for Tots event, which had over 275 volunteers. So we had truck drivers out picking up trees. So it's a completely different subset of volunteers who get to come out and spend the day with us that day. We have people who help unload the trees and then chip them up. So whether it's that or our Adopt a Family program helping to kind of receive the gifts that we get and sort through them and get them out, or volunteering in our office helping us do all sorts of things. We have people help us do mailings. We have people help us do data entry. We have people help us really have fun in the office too. So if you are looking for an opportunity to get involved, I encourage you to go to childrensfoundation.org/volunteer. We have all of our volunteer opportunities on an ongoing basis on there. And then you can also connect with us if you're looking to get more involved, and we can let you know what's going on at that time.
That's great. And there'll be links in the show notes if anyone wants to just go there to find out how they can volunteer. I can also speak from my own personal experience in doing some recent volunteer work that if, for example, the wallet is tighter for you right now and you're unable to, like you're not in a financial place to donate money, but you're also like maybe you haven't volunteered or you're just hesitant on volunteering, putting your time and energy towards something, it's not like a zero, what do you call it, a zero sum game. Like it's not like you have a set amount of energy and you'll be giving it to the organization. An hour or two or three or four or a day spent volunteering can kind of like give back and give you more energy than like you think you're giving your time, but it's actually giving back to you in a weird way.
Yep.
So I would say if money's tight but you have time, then give time. If time's tight but you have money, then give money. And speaking of that, for those who want to support the foundation financially, what are the best ways to donate and how do those contributions directly support your programs?
Yeah, so as always, the easiest way to donate is online. So if you go to our website, we've got a big donate button right at the top. You can choose to direct your donation to any one of our service areas. So whether you want to direct it to food security or recreational activity support, you can do that, or you can choose where needed most, and we'll direct those funds to, wherever the highest area's need is at the time of the donation. You can also make a donation over the phone by calling our main office at 519-826-9551. Or you can stop by our office and drop off a check or cash. There's so many different ways. And like you said, also giving your time is great. But donations are tax deductible. So you can make a donation. And right now you can also make a donation up till February 28th and claim it on your 2024 tax year because the government has made that change. So, at least for this year. So if you're still looking to make tax deductible donations for your 2024 tax year, donating to any charity by February 28th will allow you to do that.
That's great to hear. So, any listeners who've had a particularly successful 2024 and they're looking for ways to give the government a little bit less money, but maybe have that money still go to great causes, you just got your marching orders. So go do that.
Exactly.
Looking towards the future, what are some of the foundation's goals or upcoming initiatives, and how do you think the community can contribute to making those goals a success?
Yeah, so obviously our goal is just to continue supporting the community to the best of our ability. So we continue to look for opportunities, like I said earlier, to kind of work smarter and not harder, and really look for ways to collaborate with other community organizations to make sure that dollars and resources go further. And knowing that food insecurity is an issue that isn't going away anytime soon, we are going to continue to review our programs to see where we can expand, to see where those areas of need are, and ensure that we're still doing the best that we can to help tackle food security in our community. So obviously we know that participation and food security are those key elements in kids' development. So making sure that we can continue to offer those opportunities is really our number one goal, to be able to do that. Making sure that the kids do have access to things like summer camp, sports and swimming and so on is really important to us. So with that, you'll see we have different fundraising campaigns that come out through the year. So we will start talking more about food security in the months to come. When we get to the summertime, we'll start shining a light on our Kids to Camp campaign to really drive those dollars into helping kids get access to summer camp. And then we have things like our golf tournament and our gala. So different ways that you can get involved and you can support, whether you're someone who likes to come out and golf and donate that way, or whether you're someone who likes to give their time. There's all sorts of different ways that you can get involved. So I encourage you to give the Children's Foundation a follow on social media. So you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. We are still on X, but we're not very active. But you can find us, Children's Foundation at Guelph Wellington, or at Children's FDNGW all together. And you can follow along with what we're doing there. We regularly post about our fundraising campaigns, events that are upcoming, volunteer opportunities, and our programs at large, so you can learn about what we're doing. And then you can also sign up for our monthly newsletter on our website if that's a way that you'd like to keep yourself involved as well. We tell a lot of stories through there, and same sort of things, events, campaigns, volunteer opportunities, all those things come out in our monthly newsletter. So yeah.
That's great. So many opportunities to support. So you hear that, go follow them on all the remaining social media platforms that will continue to exist or may or may not, but we'll see. But yeah, just a point about that. Like, if you go follow them on Instagram and say you see a golf thing come up in a couple months down, even if you're not a golfer, you probably know a golfer in your life, and then you can send them that post or you could let them know about it. So there's all kinds of low impact, low effort ways to support and help. Even if you can't volunteer, if you can't give money, you can give them a social media follow and interact with some posts in that. And it's a low bar, and it doesn't replace doing any of those other things, but it's something, and it's more than nothing.
Yeah,
So,
extremely helpful.
mhm. Well, Amanda, thanks so much for joining today and for telling our listeners all about the great things that your organization's doing. Yeah, anything else that you have to share, or did we cover it all?
No, I think we covered it all. Just Guelph's a great place and we have such a great community. And we see that through our volunteers and through our organization as a whole. And if you're looking for a way to get involved, our organization is definitely a great one. But there are so many great organizations within Guelph. So if our programs don't speak to exactly you and what you want to have in your life, take a look around. There's so many different organizations, one that might spark some joy in your life, and they're always looking for volunteers, monetary donations, and like Jordan said, a like, a comment, a share on Facebook, on Instagram. It goes a lot further than you think, and for smaller organizations like us, who are just kind of little local organizations, it really helps to continue to spread the word and help people to discover us and know who we are and what we do. And maybe it strikes a chord with someone else and we end up getting a new donor or a new volunteer and someone who will be supporting us for years to come. So
That's great. Thanks, Amanda. And I really like what you just said there in terms of, well, one, you put the word out for other organizations, which is kind of nice. And I like how you said about how Guelph is a great place. And I think that's how I'm going to choose to end this episode, is to appealing not through trying to shame people. Like, I feel like there's a lot of shame in the world of donating and trying to get people to donate, but instead let's appeal to the esteem that people have about themselves and their city. If you're listening to this, you're probably in the Guelph area. This is a great place. Let's continue to make it a great place to live, and great places support great organizations like this. Again, thanks. Links all in the show notes if you want to find out how to support. And I look forward to keeping an eye out, following you on social media, and seeing the great things that the foundation does. So thanks, Amanda.
awesome. Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks for listening to Growing Guelph. I've been your host, Jordan Sloggett. Be sure to subscribe to us on social media, on your favorite podcast app, and if you have a recommendation for a future guest you'd like me to speak to, you can reach out to me at growingguelph@gmail.com.